everybody. Welcome to Impossible Live. Welcome back if you're joining us again. But at any rate, you are so in for a delicious, rich treat today. And I am so delighted that I can't even call her fabulous. That's too much of an understatement. I use the word dynamic a lot. I'm not sure yet how to introduce you to this beautiful woman other than saying she's a gift from the universe. And one of the things about gifts from the universe is we never know when they'll pop up. And I love it. She's got a beautiful smile. She's got fabulous energy. She picked an amazing song to kind of guide our discussions today, a song for you. And the best part is I had the pleasure of meeting Heather in a love seat. We were both chosen for love seats by Karen Curry Parker. And Karen had this amazing challenge. And I don't usually hang out for 9 day challenges. I made it all 9 days. And possibly because of her matching and pairing Heather and I up on the fifth day. And the coolest part about being matched up is you never know because we've never met before.
Mm.
But I listened to this beautiful woman's voice and I was just like, I had been really nervous, and Heather just looked like, I've got this. I'm just here. So I'm laughing, she's laughing, and let's let wonderful Heather introduce herself to you and welcome to Impossible Live. And anybody tuning in, hey, say hi live or on replays. Let us know that you're here, and let's give Heather a warm welcome to Impossible Live. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Melanie. I'm very excited to be here. And it's so hard to believe that it was probably getting close to a year ago when we had that challenge. But I always find that it's so interesting how those little twists of fate spark something within us that we didn't even know we needed, right? And that the connections that can be made in online spaces and how that translates not just to online but to how we show up in person. um, so I am Heather Travis. I am a spiritual coach and shamanic practitioner who has been continuously evolving as I, one, dive deeper into human design and gene keys and all of that glorious, because it really is glorious, like detail oriented um, information that helps you uncover more about who you are. And as I continue to embrace more and more of who I'm meant to be in this world. So I'm very excited to be here with you, and I cannot wait to see where this conversation takes us.
I love that Heather's saying more of who we're meant to be in this world because I think sometimes we're not really sure. We think we're stuck. Whether it's as I was just at an amazing event earlier by Denise Harant of the she has Sales Club USA, and I had a chance to finally meet Michael Roach. And Michael and I have been co-hosting Event Alchemy now for about 7, 8 months, and we'd never met live. And I think, as you were saying, that uncovering more of who we are. And hi, Olu, how are you? Welcome. And Olu is joining us. Olu is definitely traveling the farthest state to join us. So thank you so much. We thank you for joining us and for warm welcome to Impossible Live. But I love what you're saying, Heather, because it's also reminding me of a conversation that I had with Olu, and it's the only time we've had a chance to speak. That part about us not really being sure who we're meant to be, that whole discovery process or the whole journey. And I love that under a song for you because it's a look back at the journey. But I love what you said today about momentum. So let's shift into the momentum lane. And how would you like to take us there?
So I think what a great way for us to dive into momentum is to like a wheel, right? So we are on the wheel of life, right? And I think even with what we were talking about earlier, where we are taking bit by bit and piece by piece of this information and having this conversation, all of that builds together as we continue to learn and uncover things about ourselves that create this own momentum within ourselves, right? And so, whether it is momentum towards self discovery or momentum towards sharing our insight or momentum towards whatever we're seeking in life, right? But it is always like sometimes it feels very sluggish getting started sometimes, but it feels like, but you always recognize when you reach that point that you hit a stride. And so like that's momentum, is you have to be able to do the work to get to the point that you can feel like you can just glide through. That doesn't mean that you don't put in any work. It doesn't mean that you don't do any effort, but there's just a different level of peace and ease that you carry through life when you reach that point of having some momentum.
Oh, I love that. I think the thing too with momentum is we're not sure when we're in the process.
I don't think that we always recognize when we're in the process, but I do think that we are able to, we do recognize that we have more creative energy. We have more that we just like, there's a different sense of self, right, that we have once we hit momentum. And so even though we don't recognize it for momentum, we usually have some level of ourselves that recognizes we've reached that point. It might not be at the beginning of it, but we do recognize at some point in time that we fairly early on that we reach that point of momentum. But what we end up doing is we try to push harder and further instead of allowing ourselves to let the momentum carry us.
Mm. Oh, I love that. So the almost, when I think of sometimes in terms of the vehicles now with driver's assist, we're always trying to help things along, uh, trying to guide things. I was driving my brother's car, so trying to use all the bells and whistles that I jokingly say in his spaceship, and as opposed to just letting a natural evolution or letting what's leading us or what's calling to us. Um, and I think that's the part. I love talking about momentum and talking about alignment and what that looks like for the clients and the organizations we work with. What I think sometimes is it's really hard for people to define what the process looks like. That momentum may have a pause in there.
Well, or the fact that I think sometimes too, the fact that we feel like we have to label the process. Like, because once we stop to label the process, we take ourselves out of momentum, right? Because then we're out of that flow and into starting to think with our head, and which begins the process of overthinking, right? And so that ability, because that's the real skill set that you, once you are able to cultivate, that really allows us to be in the process of manifestation and be in the energy of abundance, really, because it's and because that we're able to just resonate that rather than trying to force that.
I really like what you're saying, and welcome to my sister from another mother. Oh goodness, and Heather is left. Hey, it's the truth. I had the pleasure of meeting amazing Marie. I don't want to date us too much, but now it's about 18 years, and it took me a really long time and to realize that we really sisters, as Marie and I call them, from another mother. We figured that out in 2010. We
Hmm.
uh, we had an essay to complete for Leadership Orange. And fortunately, Marie and a couple of our friends who were attending the program were ahead of me. They were the early birds. Marie at least had looked at the questions, and one of the questions like our office, and she asked me, "How are you answering this question about leadership?" And how are you answering this question about diversity? And I'm like, guess I better look at the questions, find a pen, get in the writing mode. And she's like, oh, don't worry, it's 500 words. And I'm like, okay, I better start typing in quick because obviously we had two essays. So ever since then, Marie and I have generously called ourselves sisters from another mother. We had one of those days that stretched us, stretched our communication skills, expanded our friendship. And we were like, we're definitely related, but boy, and I'm honored to also be on a board with her. Yeah, I know, Marie. It does. I know. Hard to believe it's definitely that long. I remember I joined the chamber in, ooh, 2006. But back to Heather.
It's all good. It's all good.
I think what I think that part of the movement process, like sometimes like I'm an introvert who's a trained ambivert now, and I feel sometimes like I'm moving along in a process. Like I'm about to release a course that I've been working on for a while. I'm about to rebrand. Been thinking about this for a while. And it's finally going to happen in August. And I think what's interesting is this process of building to it, of trying to come up with whether it's building blocks or, steps on a checklist or cross out what others say the priority list. These Both of these processes have kind of rewritten themselves.
Well, and I'd say there is like, what did you learn about yourself through that process? Right? Because that's what it is even though we're creating something for somebody else, we're first and foremost learning about ourselves, or we're learning more about how we move through life.
I learned to breathe more during the journey. And I used to say that I was allergic to pivoting. And pivoting just means something's changing your direction. What's changed is how I approach intersections, how I approach conversations now after getting certified in trust, and really the days, as you would say, as opposed to feeling like the driver of the process, knowing that some days it's time for me to learn something. Some days it's time for me to stretch, other days it's time for me to pause. And in the process, really learning to simplify things. And that has been the greatest, greatest, greatest gift. And in a big part, really, because of human design and trust and kind of them aligning. And the coolest part was learning Yvette Bethel, new Karen Curry Parker, So the trust work is has kind of been a bridge, but the human design part that amazing business coaches have been recommending I check out for years, and I never took a deep dive until the pandemic. I started looking at it, and I said to Heather, "This is not for me to get certified in. This is for me to keep inviting amazing, amazing people like delightful Heather in to come help us with this deconditioning." But the deconditioning feels like, and Marie and I would agree about turtles, is shedding layers in turtle skin, shedding layers, shedding skin, almost as if we were, yeah.
Well, like, I think this is one of those perfect times for the analogy of the thought bubbles, right? Is like the part of the deconditioning process is us taking a pin and popping all of those bubbles that were never ours to begin with. And every bubble you pop creates space for you to fill in with yourself. And so that is another big piece of the process of momentum too, right? Is if we are actively engaged in learning, like, and being present with the process, we are more likely to actively allow ourselves to fill that space instead of seeking to have that space filled in for us. And I think that it can be a very tricky territory for a lot of people, because again, when you get into that energy of forcing and pushing and I gotta, right, then you seek from outside. And so you're refilling those bubbles And those, that space in your head with other people's thoughts, other people's beliefs, instead of allowing your thoughts to emerge and allowing your inner knowing to be present in a way that carries you forward. So you then become the saboteur of your own life. You're putting up these blocks for yourself. And, you know, a part of that process too is learning to have some self-compassion, because we don't all get it right the first time. We don't, second time or the third time, right? Like that's part of the process, is learning to have some of that empathy that we clearly give to so many people for ourselves.
Uh, you're so wise. I think one of the things it reminds me of is being a coach of mental fitness through positive intelligence is learning more about the saboteurs of the narratives, or the pleasure of Karen Curry Parker had a story lab of hanging out as she's trying to help us change the stories we're telling each other. And I think, as you would say, that part about almost feeling like in this process, like the lights are being turned on in a tunnel in front of us or lit up on a pathway, the kind of that is sometimes the way to go. And Olu, I hope that the internet returns, and that maybe it could also be, I'm at a hotel right now and the internet could be dragging on our end, but hopefully the tech will uh, will allow you to hear and enjoy Heather's gems. But so we really appreciate you. Andrea, welcome and thank you for joining us, and thank you also for checking on your family in Jamaica. I appreciate and I hope that all of your loved ones are safe in the storm. I think also in the process of learning, and Andrea's got this amazing product line. And Andrea, I have to order some more of your onion oil. So remind me if you don't see an order shortly. A family member reminded me, but Andrea's got all these amazing products through Tony Ann Organics, and just things to help us in the process of self care. Because I think that's what's different. There's now self care in this deconditioning part, and self care so much so that it's something now I can say I actually have self care practices, which is really, it's interesting for me. Just made an appointment with a good friend for a detox foot bath next week. It's been a little bit, but the things that we do to kind of catch our breath, or kind of pause, or look and see before we're changing these routes, I think that's what used to always get in my head in the process before of talking about pivots.
Well, and you're a manifester, correct?
Yes, I am.
And so a lot of that deconditioning and a lot of where some of that hang up comes for you is you live in a generator world. And so there is so much of that conditioning of I have to do, I have to be the one that does this, I have to, right? Like, and in that do energy that goes so much against what a manifester is and their purpose here in the world, right? So the your one of your greatest gifts is your voice and your presence. And regardless of how you see yourself as an introvert, right? Like the introvert energy is simply the that knowing that you don't need anybody else, right? But when you, because you're conditioned in a do world, when you're going through those pivots, like you, there's, we're taught to pressure through, we're taught to, right, not give up. And that was one of the things that I wrote in my newsletter today, was talking about surrender. And for me, it's a summer of surrendering. And I started with my hair and what that entailed, but like the idea of all of it is just continuing to make space and make space and make space. And that's so much of what we're seeing in the world around us as well, is people are trying to fill the space and fill the space and fill the space with noise. And so we have to, that's part of the reconditioning that we have to do, is to put up those boundaries for ourselves, because so that we can stay in our own momentum.
Thank you for the gems. And for those of you who have not had a warm or even a soft introduction to human design, Heather's referring to there are a bunch of types.
There's 5 basic types, right? And so we're talking about, you got your manifester, which is the voice, right? They're the inspire, they're the ones that are here to inspire how we move forward in the world. The generators are your doers. They're your workhorses. They're the ones that our 9 to 5s were built on, because they have this energy to keep doing. um, the manifesting generators are kind of the combination of both. So they have a little bit of an inspiration, but they're first and foremost here to do. You've got your projectors, who are the guides. They're taking the whole world and showing them where we're going. And then the reflectors are the one to ship. The reflectors are your mirror. They're the one that's telling you what you're doing wrong along the way.
Hopefully in a
That's how
kind
I
and
see it.
gentle, hopefully in a kind and gentle way. You know that can be a little spooky.
Well, like a mirror is simply a mirror. Like, whether it's kind and gentle is how you choose to show up to the mirror. That's like how we choose to show up to life, how we choose to show up to conversation. A mirror is just a mirror. It's not their fault.
Definitely, definitely. Welcome, Tamara. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Impossible Live. Thanks for popping in. And everybody, as you're watching, let us know where you're from and let us know a way we can help you in between Impossible Lives. And if you haven't had an introduction yet to human design or how to use it for decision making or in your life, or you have an interest in exploring, don't forget to drop a comment so we can connect you with amazing Heather. And you can also find Heather under at Soul Healing Mission. She's got an amazing blog, mad skills, and a wonderful, soothing voice. We could gently talk to you forever. I had caught up with Heather one day and realized this conversation was going to be the first of zillions, because as you're saying, we were introduced last year and finally had a chance to connect this year. And I'm delighted you're joining us for Impossible Live. And Andre, I'm so glad that your family is safe. Hey, Kimberly, how are you? Welcome. Thanks. Welcome back. Thanks for popping in. And Heather, what's a good way for somebody who has not explored human design and hasn't had a chance to really tap into how to decondition to kind of help combat or recover from some of the things that are happening in our fragile world? What's a good way for them to jump in?
I think just you start at the beginning, right? Like, you start with just taking a look, like, there's a zillion different places out there. I personally like mybodygraph.com, that has, where you can just look at your chart, right? And just begin to familiarize yourself with what the chart is. And you start at the top with what your type is and what your strategy is, because anything else that you learn in your chart is always going to come back to type and strategy. Your strategy is how you are meant to make decisions, right? So your type is, again, is how you interact with the world, but your strategy is your decision making process. And so those are really the foundation pieces of human design. And so learning what yours is and just playing with that, right? Like, most people get caught up when they get into human design of it being a definition of who you are. But as Karen Curry says, and even as Ra, who is the gentleman who was given the transmission, is it's not, it's not the end all be all. It is an experiment, right? It is, and whether it's this tool or any other tool that you have, it's how do you process it through your own system, right? So your own lens of life, your own experiences up until here, because people are going, I mean, that's why you have so many different zillion people that are teaching it or that have gone through the process and come up with their own determination or explanation of what things are, right, is because we all have our own lens with which we view and take information and regurgitate information. And so the best way to get started is to, what does this feel like for me when I read that and I start to drop into my body and start to listen and start to change how I view how I'm showing up, or change view how other people interact with me based upon this context of human design, right? And how do I start making decisions? Like, what happens if I make a decision this way? So that's really the best way to start with human design, because it is a rabbit hole. It is
I
a
love it.
complete and
We're
utter
so
rabbit
joined
hole.
by, we have so many manifesting generators in the house here. Tamara says she's a manifesting generator, and she's got her numbers, her profile numbers. She's a 6'2". So after our types, there's also a profile. What does the profile, for those who haven't had a chance to dive into it, and my sister from another mother, who and I, we're going to take a deeper dive this summer.
So your profiles are, to me, your profiles are your face to the world, right? So it's how your purpose is presented to the world. And so it becomes the lens with which people see your purpose and how you put your purpose out in the world. That's really what the profile is. And so anything that is starts with a 1, 2, or 3 is more of an interpersonal profile. So it is something that is like you're, especially if it's in the first line, then you are here first and foremost for your own experience. So focusing on your own experience and how you move through the world and how you learn, and like, but strictly that will on it automatically impact the rest of the world. But your lessons are your personal lessons. 4, 5, and 6 are transpersonal. So all of your lessons are really meant to be vocally shared, and your energy just naturally begins to shift the world forward. So anything there. And then as you continue to go through the layers of profiles, right, then like you've got, um, different people use different terminologies for it. Like with the 6, I always hear like somebody, I think Julie Ciardi labeled it as a role model. I'm sure it's other places too, but you know, there's different gifts that are associated with each of those as well, right? And so continuing to play, like again, it's play, right? That's how we grow and learn and make the fastest change, is when we have fun with what we're doing, and to, but yes, the profiles, like, it's that lens with which your purpose is interacting with the world.
Thank you so much for encouraging those who may be listening to us but haven't had a chance to visit mybodygraph.com, or other opportunities to explore their chart. What I love is a couple of our guests are putting their profiles there, and it is definitely manifesting generators in the house.
Oh, that's because I'm one, so
I absolutely love it. I live with a manifesting generator, and I'm telling you, we appreciate y'all, because you truly make the song "People Make the World Go Round." Y'all wrote the lyrics.
Oh, that's my house though. It's like I'm a 5/1 manifesting generator. My husband's a 5/1 manifesting generator, and my mom's like a 4/6 manifesting generator, and we all live in the same household.
Wow, wow, that's a lot of, we're going to get it done in the world in one location.
Yeah. As long as we're just gotta be careful that we're not pointing too far off when we're having conversations.
Oh, I am smiling. I'm smiling as I'm a 3'6", and all I know is, when I saw the profile and I said 3'6", okay, it says you're a half. I wonder what you're half of, you know? And I think it's an interesting thing because you think of the fractions and really the reminders of so many different things. And like Heather's saying, if we look at this from the perspective of gifts and what we're bringing to hopefully make this world a lighter, brighter, better place for all of us to live, I think Heather's house would be a cool house to go to because let me tell you something. When you're hanging around with manifesting generators, if you ever need something, there's someone around you with a toolkit. Someone has already thought of whatever it is you're trying to do in the house. You just don't know yet. You may be about to reach because you think you're about to help by getting a piece of silverware or something that's not on the table, and there's already been someone sent to bring it. It's already packaged and ready to make an appearance. We just haven't seen it yet. So I think that's one of the things I love about manifesting generators and Queen She. We've been having fun talking about that. Oh, Tamara says she needs another me. You know, maybe this is the way to do, instead of, uh, AI clones, maybe this is the way, Heather may have the key, find a spouse who shares your type and your profile. That may be,
You definitely understand them a little bit better, and you're able to have a little bit more compassion and understanding for their overzealousness than you would have otherwise. And it's so funny too because um I have what's like the 5720 where it's the gate of the now. No, I've got the gate of the channel of the now, right? So like the really being present to my intuition and stuff like that. Where my husband has uh the sacral to um the throat. So he has the actual uh true manifesting generator channel. And so it's hilarious because he is that, like, if he's awake, his brain is everything is on until he like until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning until he passes out, and he's up again at 9 and on and going, right? Like so but just like it would be and it is very, very challenging for other people to be like not get exhausted by it because it's always on, right? And so like having that understanding of another person, and I think that's what another really valuable asset of human design is. It deepens the human compassion element, right? So it allows you to see the other person as human, and as the, while this might be challenging, it is a gift in its own right, right? Like going back to the gifts is like all of those things that might frustrate us have a purpose for them, has a purpose for the world, has a purpose, even regardless of how we interact with it. And so the more that we can humanize that and have compassion for that, the easier it is to then turn back and become like, oh yeah, that person's a mirror. So if I'm experiencing this, that means I have something within myself to work on.
I absolutely love that. And this is next week's our original anniversary. And we laugh all the time because my joke has been learning from human design that there were 9 centers and that there were different motors in the centers, and that my energy or only motor is the root chakra. And I live with a manifesting generator who's kind of like, we talked about that. Isn't it done yet? I was out for like 10 minutes. Aren't you there yet? And I'm laughing because it's really now helping us with a new language and like you said, in the humanity, the help of understanding. And thank you so much, Kimberly. The process of how differently we move or process things, and um, we've been spending more and more time with family, and in this process of spending time, I'm able to say, I need a little more rest. I need to go to sleep earlier. So my night owl is up watching TV until 1 or 2 in the morning, and I'm loving it Because right now, I'm about to check out of the hotel suite, but we had two separate rooms, two different TVs for the last two nights. I was able to go to sleep without a television in my ear. And I really slept really well, like really rested, woke up really joyful. On the other hand, at the end of the day, I'm like that kid who has kind of lost the batteries, you know, give me a warm pillow. On the other hand, sometimes I'm in the midst of a project, and as Heather would say, momentum will keep me up till 2 or 3 in the morning. And it's like, oh, I love the process of, as we're talking about types and how we can use it to kind of enrich our lives, is to really and Olu is saying it, and thank you so much, Olu. Heather is amazing. You need to follow her content. She's got fabulous posts. She has fabulous insights. This conversation now, and I was like, I love having guests like this, and to say really, hey, where is it that you'd like to go? Because I think that's what it's about. As Heather's saying, there's something that's going to take us somewhere. We're all going to learn something. We're all going to expand. Hopefully, we're all getting energized in the way that got a little more pep in our step, no matter what the next couple of projects are.
Well, there's that. And I think too, I think we all need from time to time to have that bit of permission to just be ourselves. And when you hear somebody just talking and sharing, that's not over thought out and not over scripted, and just like you're present and sitting there within the conversation, like there's this unwritten permission slip to just show up as you are. And I think that, again, going back to human design, is the more and more that you understand the different levels and the different layers of, first and foremost, yourself, and then the people that you interact with on a regular basis, the easier it is for you to give yourself that permission, and to give people around you that permission to, as you were talking about with the night owl and the early bird, right? Or just different levels of energy. I mean, because even though, another example is my husband and myself, like while we are both manifestation generators and we both have a lot of energy, I'm an early, like I'm up, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. He's not going to bed until 2 o'clock at night. So we have different like schedules as well. But it also works really well because then that means I have a couple hours in the morning where I get to fuel myself, show myself that self love, um, without having to be worried, or like not even really worried, but not having to start to draw my energy towards anything else. Whereas he, and all of the other things that go on with his brain, he has that decompressed time that he needs at the end of the day. Um, and that's the way that he shows himself self-love, right? And I think learning what we really need and require to give ourselves that self-love gets to be different, right? And so like that, we just, that it's that permission slip just to be ourselves, to honor ourselves, really.
Oh, I love that. And, I'm laughing because I think, I'm grateful we're in a long term relationship. But I think if I discovered human design sooner, some of those early years, I'm not saying they might not have been so roller coastery and so, interesting. And Tamara's saying it about needing your quiet time. I think all of us need that. Hey Roshni, how are you? Welcome, beautiful. I think we all need that. And I think the thing that I love is underneath this, it kind of feels like a permission slip,
Mm-hmm.
because I really am surrounded by manifesting generators. And I laugh. My brother asked me a couple of years ago, who are you and what have you done with my sister? And there would be a two-word answer: human design. Another two words would be mental fitness. Another two words would be trust certifications. The combinations between them, and as Roshni's saying, I love the idea of that loving path of connection. we need it within ourselves, but also it really does allow us as we're showing up with someone else. But I love what Roshni's saying about it, demystifying the human experience. Heather, you're going to laugh when you watch the replays and you see the emojis popping up. You'll see all the hearts and different thing, because really you're talking to your people here.
Well, and I that brings me back to when we first did the hot seat of like I was just so focused and well, that's who I am. Like I get focused in my conversation. I'm just really happy to be there, and that's how I showed up with Karen, right? And then it's just like Karen's sitting there, like if you could see what's happening behind you, it reminded me of that.
What I
Um,
love is she reminded us that you have a force field, and it's, there's an ability, whether it's through mm, extending your hand to help somebody who has no idea, whether it's showing up on time with the intuitive and the mad skills to help the rest of us solve any problem that we possibly have. I laugh because in this process of exploring our types and our designs at home, when I get really stuck, I throw it out in the air. And there's an amazing, manifesting generator who's like, yes, no, makes sense, nope, what if you, stop it. The help from doing the boundary work, and not even just the boundary work, but I think the life work, the reminder to take greater care as we're taking steps, as we're, you know, trying to stay safe, help our families stay safe.
well,
Um,
I'm going to jump in real quick there because I think another interchangeable word for care there is intention, right? Like bringing intention into our day-to-day lives is what transforms our lives, hands down, right? Because it's what brings you present, right, to what is happening, because you can only have care when you are there, right? If you are not there to and present and active and can understand what's happening, right? Like so that like bringing the intention to what you're doing first and foremost is crucial. Like that to me, like that's one of my non-negotiables. And it's a non-negotiable that I have to work on every day, but it is a non-negotiable for me.
I love too because you're reminding us whether you decompress in the morning, in the evening, during the day with naps. By, and I love it because Mima had a great day with her beautiful granddaughter, and just sent me a picture, and I just knew she was like rock solid that day. She was just in the lane to just see the world a little calmer through a different set of eyes and a different lens. And I think that's one of the things that I love about human design. It's also the thing, and I appreciate Heather for picking this song, because I was able to say all the time, honey, there's so many different versions of a song for you. I said, there's so many different artists who have sung it, and it's the reminder, if we can create that melody for ourselves, uh, tap into that music, tap into that joy, tap into some sort of wellspring, or create one, and to remember there's somebody around us to really help us with that lens. And I know Heather's got, I appreciate you joining us on a day when air conditioning is hopefully coming shortly, but
Yeah, I think they've. You
go.
may have heard in the background a little bit, but I think it's actually on.
Hey, congratulations.
Yes.
We're going to
It makes
celebrate.
it makes a difference when it's like 90 degrees outside. But at least
It
it's
sure
90 and not over 100. I will take that.
that's very true. Yeah, the heat index today in a lot of areas is up there. We're hoping everyone, is having a chance to relax. So Heather, where should people find you? And you've got this amazing offer. Please share your offer, or pop a link also when you have a chance later into the chat, so people.
I will do that. Like I think the best place to connect really is on Instagram. It's kind of where I am majority of the time. And it's the easiest place because I am such a person that's more in the present moment. And I feel like that's. Do you want to say hi? That's Miss Melanie. Sorry, my daughter. um,
Don't apologize. Hey, we love meeting family members.
she's being a little shy right now, um, but so Instagram. Okay, that's part of being shy. It's not. Okay.
In a really good way, I want to thank you because some of our guests have met family dogs. They've met they've met nephews and other family members. They've met my parents. So I want to thank you for lending your mom to us for a little bit. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation where maybe we can meet privately and I won't be such a stranger. How about that?
Oh, she's off. Like, um, but the like, yeah. So just Instagram. I think again, being present, and it's the easiest place for me to like kind of pop my thoughts off as they come in. I know, and I have a website, heathertravis.com, where most of the offers are. And as the same thing with you, is I'm in the process of a bit of a rebrand. I had been going by Heather Travis, the Body Shaman, and I am really kind of shifting because part of my shedding this summer, I am by trade have been a massage therapist, and so like there had been so much of that I kind of been holding on to, and I'm really allowing myself to just kind of make that next leap fully into more of a spiritual coach. That includes dealing with the Akashic records, crystalline, human design, gene keys. Like I could go on. I'm a 5/1, so like I could go on all of the different things that I have embodied and am bringing forth in with kind of this new time. So a lot of things will be continuing to forthcome in the next few weeks.
Well, we are so excited and toasting you across the miles, celebrating
Yes.
celebrating with you, cheering you on. And
Well, thank
thank
you for
you
having
so
me.
much for joining us. Warm, warm welcome to Impossible Live. Let's keep reaching out to Heather on multiple platforms and giving her lots of love. And thank you so much for making time in your schedule, whether you're popping in for a few minutes, whether you're popping in for a replay, whether someone shared the link or it just popped up, and giving us a chance to join you today. And until we meet again, hope you stay safe, stay well, stay inspired, and stay in touch. And have a magnificent day filled with opportunities and possibilities. Thank you so much, Heather, and everyone else for joining us. Be safe. Thank you for joining us. It's truly our pleasure. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take great care.